The air in St. Jude's smelled of ammonia, old wax, and something indefinably metallic, a scent that clung to the ancient plaster walls and faded linoleum floors. Isabel gripped the strap of her nurse's bag, trying to project a confidence she didn't feel. This was it, her first solo night shift, a baptism by fire in the oldest wing of the city's hospital. The unit, tucked away on the 7th floor, was mercifully quiet. Most of the patients were long-term or geriatric cases requiring only basic monitoring. The main corridor was dimly lit by fluorescent tubes that flickered with a tired, irregular rhythm. "Just remember your schedule, dear," the head nurse, Mrs. Petroff, had said earlier that evening, her voice raspy. "Rounds at midnight. And don't worry about the noise. Old places like this have character." Now the clock on the nurse's station showed 11:58 p.m. Time for rounds. Isabel picked up her heavy clipboard, the metal binding cold against her palm. She started with room 701. The room was dark. She gently flipped the light switch. A frail, elderly woman lay in the bed, her breathing shallow but steady. As Isabel checked the IV drip, she noticed the woman's eyes were wide open, staring past Isabel at the ceiling. "Everything all right, ma'am?" she whispered. The woman didn't answer, but a faint, dry sigh escaped her lips. Isabel made her notes and moved to room 702. This room was occupied by an empty bed labeled discharged. In room 703, a middle-aged man with a gray beard was slumped against his pillow. As Isabel approached, a harsh, guttural coughing fit shook his frame. "Sir, can I get you some water?" she asked, reaching for the carafe. The man stopped coughing instantly. He turned his head slowly, revealing eyes that were dark, vacant pools. His mouth remained open, forming a dry, silent O. "Don't worry," he rasped, his voice sounding like sandpaper. "It's just the dust. It gets in everywhere." She nodded, uneasy, and quickly made her notes. Patient 703, stable, reported dust irritation. The rounds continued, each room blurring into the next. The hospital's silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards or the drip of a faucet somewhere down the hall. She finally reached room 710, the last room on the corridor. She pushed the heavy wooden door open. This room was different. Instead of a sterile hospital bed, there was a single rusted iron frame, draped with a heavy, dust-caked cloth. The window was shattered, letting in a current of damp, cold air. A sound reached her ears, a faint, rhythmic tap, 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 coming from beneath the shroud. Isabel froze. Her medical training screamed, "Check the patient, assess the situation." Her instinct screamed, "Run." She forced herself to move forward, reaching out a trembling hand to pull back the cloth. As her fingers brushed the coarse fabric, the tapping stopped. The light fixture above sputtered violently, plunging the room into momentary darkness, then sputtering back to a weak glow. In that brief flash, Isabel saw what was under the sheet. There was no body. There was a simple wooden coffin, long and narrow, resting on the iron frame. And etched crudely on the lid, she saw the dates, 1898, 1910. A small, heavy object fell from the top of the coffin, landing with a muffled thud on the wooden floor. It was a copper medical tag, worn smooth with age. Isabel picked it up. Her name, Isabel Vance, was crudely scratched into the back, but the front held a chilling inscription. St. Jude's Memorial Hospital, dedicated to those we lost in the Great Influenza. Closed due to contamination, 1918. A cold, horrible clarity seized her mind. The smell of ammonia was formaldehyde. The metal clatter were surgical instruments. The patients she had been treating, the vacant eyes, the dust-choked cough, the death dates. She was not on the 7th floor of a busy hospital. She was in a century-old quarantined wing, abandoned for over 100 years. Terror lent her speed. She bolted out of room 710, flying down the corridor, her clipboard slipping from her grasp. She didn't look back at the room of the coughing man or the woman with the wide, staring eyes. She burst through the fire escape door and scrambled down the flights of stairs, passing floors that were entirely gutted, their walls crumbling and trees growing through the broken windows. Finally, she hit the ground floor and threw open the massive main doors. She stumbled on to a wide, weed-choked lawn. There was no parking lot, no ambulance bay, no emergency sign, just a rusted, ornate gate, and beyond it a street sign marking a completely different block than she remembered. And then she saw the building in the cold moonlight. It was colossal, a Gothic stone edifice, but every window was blackened or shattered. Vines snaked across its facade, and a massive official sign was barely visible over the front entrance, half covered by ivy. She ran toward it, needing proof, needing to see the name. Scraping the ivy away with bloody fingers, she finally read the corroded brass plaque. St. Jude's Sanatorium, condemned, 1918. She backed away, shaking, hyperventilating. She was alone. She had been alone.
Suddenly, a sound came from the 7th floor window of the derelict building, directly above where she had just exited. It was the rhythmic, tired sound of the fluorescent light buzzing, the exact sound of the nurse's station. Then a face appeared in the shattered window. The old man from room 703, his vacant eyes looking down. He smiled the dry, silent O of his mouth, and raised his hand in a slow, precise gesture. He gave the crisp, authoritative signal of a head nurse. He pointed a bony, skeletal finger directly at the sky. He was reminding her it was time for her final rounds. And as Isabel looked up, she saw something else, etched into the thick, dark glass of the upper window, faintly reflecting the moonlight, were the words, "Nurse Isabel Vance, admitted April 13th, 2012.
Exodo. Exodo. Exodo.